Over time, life continued to evolve. Single-celled organisms transformed into multicellular ones. Remarkably, around 530 million years ago, the world's oceans rapidly teemed with diverse life forms, such as arthropods, mollusks, and sponges. This sudden, massive diversification led researchers to name this era the Cambrian explosion. It was a period that saw the emergence of both predator and prey, establishing the definitive foundations of the global food chain. The seas were teeming with life, including creatures known as trilobites, organisms that resembled and lived much like modern-day crabs. These creatures, similar in size to today's crabs, were ruthlessly hunted by giant prehistoric predators like Anomalocaris, which could grow up to 200 centimeters, or roughly 2 meters, in length. Think about the staggering journey of life, from a creature just a few feet tall to what we are now. That is why the magical biodiversity that emerged in that era stands out so prominently across the entire universe. The core, fundamental principle here is nothing but evolution. You see evolution everywhere. In rhetoric, chemistry, physics, things are constantly evolving. Motion and time are universal constants, but at one point during the Cambrian explosion, something happened where evolution suddenly accelerated. Evolution was occurring back then and continues today, but compared to the past, the pace of evolution during this flashpoint became much faster. Many scientists are still actively researching the factors behind this, specifically, what triggered such a rapid acceleration in species proliferation within a relatively short period. The situation on Earth at that time was paradoxical. Life was thriving in the water, and the oxygen necessary to sustain it was present in abundance. However, if you looked beyond the waves, the land remained entirely barren. Even millions of years after the Cambrian explosion, all living organisms flourished solely within the oceans. There was absolutely no sign of plants or animals on land. We previously discussed the reason for this: the sun's harmful UV radiation. But around 460 million years ago, the ozone layer finally formed, providing a vital shield against that radiation. This meant life could now easily transition from water to land and survive. By then, biodiversity in the ocean had surged, leading to a massive increase in the number of predators. And these weren't ordinary-sized predators, they were colossal, even larger than today's great white sharks. To escape these ocean nightmares, some creatures ventured onto land. Arthropods, reptiles, and other organisms began establishing entirely new worlds there. Yet the world created by these early land organisms was merely the beginning. Over time, the face of the planet was destined to change completely. Once life set foot on land, it accelerated rapidly. Single-celled organisms evolved into fungi, fungi into small plants, and small plants into towering trees reaching 100 feet in height. Before long, a vast dense forest covered the land, a landscape remarkably similar to today's rainforests. Researchers have named this era the Devonian period. Now, while these ancient trees were flourishing, they were also dying after a certain period. The problem, however, was that the bacteria capable of decomposing wood hadn't actually evolved yet. Consequently, layers of heavy soil accumulated over these dead trees over time, causing them to sink deeper and deeper into the ground. As they sank, the temperature and pressure increased exponentially. After millions of years of extreme pressure and heat, they transformed into coal. Yes, the very coal we use for energy today originated from the fossils of trees that died around 360 million years ago. We have nearly exhausted this ancient fuel source, but fortunately, some of these trees did not turn into coal, allowing their fossils to be discovered. Upon analysis, it was revealed that these ancient trees closely resembled modern trees, except for one striking feature: the rings visible in their trunks were completely missing. If you have ever examined a modern tree trunk, those rings help estimate the climate. As a tree's growth rate increases, the number of rings grows as well. Wider rings indicate a warm, wet climate, while narrower rings suggest a cold, dry environment. However, the Devonian fossils lacked this ring structure entirely, implying that there was only one permanent, unchanging season in that region. In this endless summer environment, giant creatures were establishing their total dominance. Technically speaking, calling them animals might be slightly misleading. While their size was immense, they were essentially ordinary insects. Yet, their sheer scale was colossal, and for that reason, they completely ruled the world during that era. Take Meganeura, for instance. It might look small in standard textbook pictures, but it was actually the size of a horse. These giant dragonflies used to swoop down and prey on land amphibians and other smaller insects, possessing a weight and wingspan comparable to a modern crow, and since we haven't found evidence of any earlier flying animals, it is assumed that they were likely the first creatures in Earth's history capable of powered flight. Ironically, however, these very dragonflies, which once hunted amphibians, eventually became prey themselves as the wheel of time turned and circumstances changed. In evolutionary terms, this is the brutal reality of survival of the fittest. Researchers have also discovered fossils of 1-meter-long giant scorpions from this exact period. This naturally raises the ultimate question: what was the biological reason behind such massive insect sizes? Well, the answer lies entirely in their unique respiratory system. Insects do not possess lungs like ours, nor do they breathe through a nose. Instead, they rely entirely on their skin for respiration, specifically, through pore-like structures on their skin with the help of which oxygen is absorbed into the body. Because 300 million years ago, Earth's oxygen levels were 15% higher than they are today, insects could scale up dramatically. The more oxygen there was, the larger the creatures grew. The less oxygen there was, the smaller they remained. In fact, when modern scientists began artificially supplying high levels of oxygen to organisms in controlled laboratory environments, they observed that the new generation grew significantly larger than the previous one. However, the end for these massive creatures was imminent, as Earth was poised for its greatest mass extinction event. This apocalypse was triggered by the massive, violent movement of tectonic plates, which caused widespread volcanic eruptions across the globe. Sulfuric gases released from the churning lava dissolved directly into the atmosphere, leading to devastating sulfuric acid rain across the globe. Consequently, levels of heat-trapping black carbon rose catastrophically while oxygen levels plummeted. The devastation was so immense that 95% of the world's organisms went completely extinct. The planet was once again left entirely desolate, and the few surviving creatures began to shrink in size over time due to the dwindling oxygen levels in the atmosphere. A consistent pattern emerges here. In every single mass extinction event, large organisms tend to perish, whereas smaller ones often survive, either by finding shelter or by adapting to a suitable, restricted ecosystem. The same occurred during this bleak period. The small surviving organisms eventually gave rise to all future species. It is worth noting that this entire tragic sequence of events predates the era of the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs had not yet even appeared on Earth, yet the planet had already undergone such dramatic, terrifying transformations regarding life. Eventually, those tiny survivors evolved, giving rise to the 140-million-year reign of the dinosaurs. But the cosmic wheel of destruction was destined to turn again. The next major extinction-level event was reshaped by the cataclysmic Cretaceous extinction roughly 66 million years ago. During this event, around 76% of all species were lost, famously ending the long reign of the dinosaurs. The cause: a 6-mile-wide asteroid struck the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, creating the immense Chicxulub crater. The fallout was an absolute nightmare. The impact vaporized solid rock instantly, throwing an enormous dust and soot cloud into the atmosphere that blocked out all sunlight for up to a decade. Without the sun, photosynthesis ground to a complete halt, causing a rapid, total collapse of the global food chain. All non-avian dinosaurs, pterosaurs, and giant marine reptiles went entirely extinct, opening up empty ecological niches for small, burrowing mammals to finally step out of the shadows and thrive. When you look at the grand scale of time, the subject of life's evolution is absolutely fascinating. It explores how life evolved from simple, basic building blocks, like proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids, into complex, intelligent forms, how DNA was formed, and how the transfer of genetic information became possible. It is a truly beautiful aspect of nature, giving us some brilliant perspectives on how life actually originated and persevered against impossible odds. If you learned something new today and want to keep exploring the deep secrets of our planet, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and press the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future updates. Stay curious, keep learning, and keep growing. Cheers.